The warfront was not supposed to be here. Captain Elias Ward stood in the forward observation blister of the TDS Resolute, watching the darkness fracture into shards of hostile metal and flame. Beyond the reinforced glass, alien ships blotted the stars, sleek, contoured vessels with hulls that rippled faintly like the skin of some deep-sea predator. Energy flared along their weapon spines, each pulse sending ripples of pale light over the silvered hulls. The formation moved with the practiced precision of a military machine that had been fighting long before humanity had ever left its home system. Comms were a blur of voices. Multiple contacts. Heavy tonnage. Shields to full. Ward let it wash over him without reaction, his gaze fixed on the central behemoth. A warship so vast it seemed to warp space around it, its flanks bristling with turreted weapon batteries. That had to be the flagship of the Galactic Armies. He'd heard the name whispered in intelligence briefings, usually followed by the reminder that humans had no official treaty with them. No friendship, but no declared enmity either. Yet here they were, on the doorstep of Haven 3. A voice crackled through his earpiece. Urgent. Captain, surface telemetry confirms energy strikes on civilian sectors. The comm officer's voice faltered, and Ward didn't need the rest of the report to know what it meant. His jaw tightened until it ached. Haven 3 wasn't just another colony. It was home to 30,000 human civilians, many of them settlers who had fled Earth's overcrowded cities for the promise of open skies and quiet soil. He'd been there once, years ago, to stand at his sister's wedding beneath the twin moons. Put on main screen, he said. The forward holo display bloomed to life, showing a trembling feed from one of their remote survey drones. The image resolved into blackened craters where farms had been. The skeletal frame of a habitat dome lay half-collapsed, fires still chewing through what remained. A child's red kite flapped weakly in the thermal updraft from a burning plaza. Ward felt the familiar hollowness that came whenever battle found its way into civilian lives. He turned from the screen. Navigation, bring us to holding position 3,000 clicks off the flagship's bow. Comms, request immediate parley with their command authority. Lieutenant Mara Ellen, his XO, hesitated. Sir, their formation's holding an aggressive posture. They might take it as... They'll take it however they want, Ward said, his tone flat. But we're not here to watch from the sidelines while our people burn. The Resolute's engines hummed deeper as the ship swung into position. Out beyond, the Galactic Fleet's movements shifted, subtle, but noticeable. 2 escort ships slid into a flanking position, their weapon ports yawning open. Ward ignored them. Parley request sent, Ellen said, encoded in standard Galactic and Virek dialect. The reply came sooner than expected, a voice that was precise and cool, its tonal harmonics suggesting the speaker wasn't human. This is Commander Virilsaw of the 1st Conquest Fleet. Identify yourself, Terran vessel. Ward stepped into the pickup field, the bridge lights dimming around him as the comm system locked onto his presence. Captain Elias Ward, Terran Defense Navy. You're operating in violation of interstellar protocol. The world below is a registered human colony. A pause, then, your registry is irrelevant. Haven 3 lies within a protected exclusion zone of the Galactic Armies. Your civilians are trespassers. Ward's temper flared, but he kept his voice level. Those trespassers are families, Commander. Children. And your forces are killing them. The alien's tone did not shift. They were warned. The comm cut without warning. Ward's fists clenched at his sides. On the surface, more plumes of fire reached toward the upper atmosphere. The Resolute's sensors picked up the unmistakable pattern of kinetic strikes. Fast, brutal, and indiscriminate. Ellen's voice was low. Sir, what now? Ward's mind was already moving. If he broke formation and tried to run interference, the Resolute would be cut to pieces before it reached orbit. A fight here would doom every remaining civilian below. That left one path, straight into the heart of the enemy fleet. Prep the diplomatic shuttle, he said. Ellen blinked. Sir, boarding their flagship in the middle of a siege. I need to look them in the eyes when I ask why they think they can murder my people and walk away. Within minutes, the shuttle was detached, its thrusters firing short, controlled bursts as it threaded through a screen of alien ships. Each one loomed close enough that Ward could make out hull markings in an alien script, their shapes like curling talons. Targeting sensors brushed against the shuttle like cold fingertips. He sat in the jump seat, helmet in his lap, gaze fixed forward. Mara Ellen's voice came over the secure channel. "If they try anything, they won't," Ward said, though in truth he wasn't certain. Not yet. The Galactic flagship dominated the view ahead, its central spire rising like a cathedral into the void. Docking clamps closed around the shuttle with mechanical precision. Gravity shifted as the docking bay swallowed them whole, lights spilling across the hull. The hatch cycled open to reveal a squad of alien soldiers. They stood taller than men, armor a mosaic of scaled plating and flexible mesh, helmets shaped to accommodate forward-jutting crests. Their weapons were long-barreled, held with casual readiness. One stepped forward, its voice resonant through a translation matrix. "Captain Ward, you will follow." They led him through corridors that curved like the inside of a great shell, the walls patterned with faintly glowing veins of blue. Every so often, Ward caught glimpses through viewports. Vast chambers where alien crew moved in ordered flows, machinery humming in tones deeper than any human engine. Finally, they entered a chamber so vast it seemed to hold its own gravity. Tiered balconies rose on either side, occupied by armored figures. At the far end, upon a dais framed by banners of shifting light, stood Commander Viral Sa. The alien's armor was a work of art and intimidation, each plate engraved with swirling glyphs. Its face was long and narrow, skin a deep iridescent green, eyes faceted like onyx. "You stand before the first conquest fleet," Viral Sa said. "State your purpose, human." Ward stepped forward until he was at the center of the chamber's focus. "My purpose is simple. You attacked Haven 3. You killed civilians under the protection of the Terran Defense Navy. I want to know why." A ripple of movement passed through the balconies. Some of the aliens leaned forward, their expressions unreadable. Viral Sa's reply was calm. "Haven 3 was built without leave in our exclusion zone. Its removal is a matter of strategic necessity." Ward's voice hardened. Strategic necessity doesn't explain the bodies of children burning in their homes. For the first time, a faint hesitation crossed the alien commander's expression. War spares no one. Ward took a slow breath, holding the silence until the weight of it pressed on every listener. "This wasn't war," he said quietly. "This was murder." A murmur moved through the chamber, sharp and dissonant in a dozen alien tongues. Viral Sa's eyes narrowed, studying him. "You will have your answer," the commander said finally. "But you will hear it before the council itself." The words landed like the closing of a trap. Ward knew the council meant more eyes, more ears, and more danger. But if that was where the truth waited, he would walk straight into it. Two soldiers stepped forward, gesturing toward a side passage. The chamber's great doors parted, revealing a corridor lit in deep crimson. Ward followed without looking back. Somewhere far below, Haven 3 still burned. The corridor seemed to stretch on without end, a tunnel of crimson light and shadow. Ward's boots struck the deck with steady, deliberate steps, the sound swallowed by the silence of his escort. The alien guards moved with predatory grace, their armor whispering faintly as they turned each corner. The air here was cooler than the docking bay, carrying a faint metallic tang that lingered on his tongue. They emerged into a wide lift chamber. Transparent panels revealed the ship's immense internal structure. Layers of docking cradles, weapons arrays, and crude decks stacked like the ribs of some colossal beast. As the lift rose, Ward caught glimpses of hangar bays filled with ships unlike anything human yards had built. Their shapes asymmetric yet perfectly balanced, their surfaces alive with shifting, bioluminescent patterns. When the lift stopped, the guards led him through a set of towering doors that slid apart without a sound. The chamber beyond was a deliberate display of power. It was vast, oval, its walls lined with banners woven from metallic fibers that shimmered with slow pulses of color. Around its circumference, raised tiers formed a semicircle of seats, each occupied by a figure in ceremonial armor or elaborate robes. Ward recognized at least 4 distinct alien physiologies, scaled, feathered, furred, and skin like polished stone, all united by the same posture of quiet authority. At the focal point stood a dais, and upon it Commander Viral saw. The alien's eyes caught the chamber's light, reflecting it in sharp facets. "Captain Ward," Viral said, his voice amplified so it rolled over the gathered assembly. "You stand before the senior command of the First Conquest Fleet. Speak your grievance." Ward stepped forward, acutely aware of the eyes tracking his every move. He could feel the weight of the room pressing against him, an unspoken challenge. "You have attacked Haven 3, he said, each word precise. "A human colony registered under Terran Defense Navy protection. You've killed civilians, men, women, children. I want to know why." A ripple of motion spread through the tiers, a shifting of limbs and postures. One figure, tall and cloaked in iridescent fabric, leaned forward. Its voice was softer than Viral saw's, but carried a tone of steel. "Haven 3 lies in restricted space. Its presence was in violation of our territorial mandate." Ward met the alien's gaze, unflinching. Violation of borders does not justify indiscriminate slaughter. If your mandate demands that, then your mandate is an excuse for murder. The murmuring returned, sharper now. Some of the aliens seemed intrigued. Others looked ready to end the exchange entirely. Viral raised a clawed hand, and the room stilled. "Do you have proof of your claims, Captain?" "I do." He gestured, and the device on his wrist projected a tight field of blue-white light. The first image was of Haven 3's northern settlement before the attack. Green fields, habitat, domes glinting in sunlight, children running along a dusty street. The second image shattered that peace, blackened craters, fires licking at twisted metal, med drones hovering over rows of shrouded bodies. Gasps came from more than one section of the room. Ward advanced the feed, showing fragments of personal transmissions from survivors. A woman clutching a bloodied child, a man shouting over the roar of collapsing structures, a voice breaking as it begged for evacuation that never came. The final image was of the colony's registry mark, Terran seal, date stamped, recorded in the shared galactic database. Ward ended the projection. "These are not trespassers. These are citizens under my protection." Silence followed, long enough that he could hear the faint hum of the chamber's air systems. A broad, horned alien in heavy gold armor broke it. "If these events are as you describe, then they were not sanctioned by the Council. No order for destruction was issued through proper channels." Ward caught the subtle glance Viral exchanged with the horned alien. Something unspoken passed between them. Hesitation, calculation. Another voice, high and sharp, spoke from the opposite tier. "And yet, our fleet fired. Someone among us authorized this." The tension thickened. Ward could feel the fracture lines forming beneath the Council's controlled facade. Viral descended the dais steps, each movement deliberate. Standing before Ward, the alien studied him, as if weighing the risk of speaking further. "There are matters," Viral said slowly, "that cannot be discussed in this chamber. Come with me, Captain. We will speak privately." Ward hesitated. Leaving the chamber might mean walking into a trap, but it might also be the only way to pry open the truth. "Very well." The alien commander gestured to 2 guards. They escorted Ward through a side passage, the heavy doors sealing behind them with a deep, final note. The corridor beyond was narrower, lined with panels that glowed faintly as they passed. Viral walked ahead, silent until they reached a small, circular room. The walls here were bare, save for a single table and 2 chairs. When the door shut, Ward noticed the faint shimmer of a sound-dampening field. The alien seated himself, gesturing for Ward to do the same. "What I am about to tell you," Viral began, "is not known to most of my own command. The attack on Haven 3 was not authorized by the ruling council of the Galactic Armies. It was the work of a faction, powerful, but operating in the shadows. Their aim is to provoke open war between our peoples. Ward leaned forward. Why? Humanity has no quarrel with you. Because war changes power, Viralsa said. In war, the council loses authority to the military command, and certain generals seek that authority for themselves. The explanation fit too well with the chaos Ward had seen on the surface. Still, his instincts told him there was more. And you? Where do you stand in this? Viralsa's eyes darkened. I serve the stability of my people. War with you would destabilize everything we have built. But my voice is not the only one. Ward considered his options. He could demand immediate withdrawal, but without proof, the council might dismiss it. Evidence would be the key, not just to saving Haven 3 survivors, but to preventing escalation across the stars. You have records of the orders given for the attack. The alien inclined his head. In our secure archives. Access is restricted. Ward let the silence hang for a moment. Then we'll find a way to get it. Viralsa's expression shifted, something like agreement, though guarded. If you are willing to act beyond the boundaries of diplomacy, Captain, I will provide you the means. Before Ward could answer, a chime sounded from the wall. Viralsa touched a panel, and a stream of alien speech filled the room. Ward couldn't understand the words, but the commander's sudden stillness told him enough. An incident, Viralsa said. One of our outer patrols has been destroyed. The council believes your people are responsible. Ward felt the shift in the air, like gravity changing direction. That's a lie, and you know it. Yes, but others will not care. This will accelerate their plans. Ward rose from his seat. Then we move faster. Viralsa stood as well. There is still a formal council assembly scheduled for tomorrow. If you wish to speak, it will be your last chance before the fleet commits to open war. Ward met the alien's gaze. Then I'll speak, and I'll bring proof. The commander's mandibles flexed in what might have been approval. Be ready, human. The truth will have enemies. The door slid open, and the guard returned to escort Ward back toward his assigned quarters on the flagship. He walked without speaking, replaying the conversation in his head. Proof. He needed proof. And if that meant breaking into the most secure vault on the flagship of the First Conquest Fleet, then so be it. The corridor curved ahead, the crimson light casting long shadows across the deck. Somewhere beyond those walls, Haven 3's survivors waited for justice or vengeance. He would decide which before the day was done. The cabin assigned to Ward was spacious by shipboard standards, but every detail screamed controlled observation. The walls were smooth, unbroken except for a single viewport showing the endless dark beyond the fleet's hull. A faint vibration ran through the deck plating, a reminder that this was not neutral ground, and every breath he took here was at someone else's allowance. He didn't bother sitting. Instead, he paced, each turn measured, his mind replaying Viralsa's words. A rogue faction within the Galactic Armies. Hidden orders. Manufactured war. None of it absolved the attack on Haven 3, but it did shift the battlefield from open space to the shadows behind the throne. The door chimes sounded, sharp in the quiet. 2 guards entered, and between them stood a figure smaller than most of the aliens Ward had seen aboard. The newcomer's armor was lighter, more utilitarian, the plates matte instead of polished. The helmet retracted, revealing angular features framed by fine, dark quills that caught the cabin light. I am Intelligence Officer Thalenvor, the alien said, voice low and precise. Commander Viralsa requested I assist you. Ward studied him, noting the absence of insignia that might mark allegiance. Assist me how? By showing you where the proof is kept. The words settled over the room with the weight of an unspoken pact. Ward didn't ask how much risk Thalen was taking. He could read it in the deliberate stillness of the alien's movements. They left the cabin together, flanked by the same guards as before, though Ward noticed subtle differences in their route. Corridors narrowed, ceilings lowered, and the steady foot traffic of crew thinned to nothing. Every intersection brought a shift in lighting, from the crimson glow of ceremonial halls to the pale, clinical white of operational zones. When they reached a sealed bulkhead, Phelan tapped a sequence into a recessed panel. The doors parted to reveal a chamber filled with layered security fields, shimmering planes of light that hummed faintly as they pulsed. "This is the archive annex," Phelan said. "Only command-grade access can retrieve data from its core, but I can get us into the outer layers. From there, you need someone who's willing to break the rest," Ward finished. Phelan's quills twitched, the alien equivalent of a smile. "Exactly." The first barrier fell with a command code. The second required a palm scan, Phelan's elongated fingers pressing against a surface that rippled under the contact. The third was a motion grid, its threads of light shifting in complex patterns. Ward slipped through in the half-second gap between cycles, every instinct sharpened by years of boarding actions. Inside, the air was cooler, carrying the faint scent of ozone from dormant systems. Banks of data columns rose like frozen pillars, each etched with faint glyphs. Light swam within their translucent surfaces, coiling into spirals of color. Phelan led him to a central terminal. "The attack orders will be in the operations log, but they will be buried, coded under legitimate maneuvers to mask them." Ward's fingers hovered over the controls. Alien script flickered across the interface, shifting into rough translation via his wrist display. He searched through layers of operational records, sifting for anomalies in the sequence of orders. Patterns emerged, small inconsistencies in timestamps, irregular routing paths. And there, buried under 3 layers of encrypted tags, he found them. Deployment directives for orbital strike groups, signed not by Viral Sa, but by General Korestal. Ward scanned the metadata, frowning. These were sent before Haven 3's location was even confirmed. This wasn't reactionary. It was premeditated. Phelan's quills flattened. Korestal commands the 8th Expansion Division. They are ambitious. Ambition didn't cover it. This was calculated provocation, and the signature was ironclad proof. Ward copied the files to a secure drive, layering encryption until the data was sealed tight. A sudden shift in the ambient hum caught his attention. Phelan turned sharply toward the door. "We've been flagged. Someone's detected unauthorized access." Ward pocketed the drive. "Then we move." They exited through a secondary hatch, the lights overhead shifting to amber alert tones. Voices echoed down the corridor, sharp guttural commands. Ward and Phelan moved quickly, sticking to the shadows where the corridor's curvature shielded them from direct sight. 2 armed sentries rounded a corner ahead, weapons raised. Ward didn't think. He moved. His shoulder drove into the nearer alien's midsection, forcing the weapon aside as he struck the second across the jaw with the heel of his hand. Both went down hard, one unconscious, the other gasping for air. Phelan retrieved a dropped rifle and tossed it to Ward. "You carry that openly, they'll know you didn't come here to negotiate." Ward's answer was grim. "Good. Maybe they'll think twice about getting in the way." They navigated a maintenance conduit to bypass the primary corridors, emerging near the ship's midsection. The alert sirens faded slightly here, though the tension in the air was palpable. Crew moving quickly, officers speaking into comms with clipped urgency. By the time they reached the lift, Phelan's comm bead chimed. He listened, then looked at Ward with something close to urgency. "The council session has been moved forward. Korestal demanded an emergency assembly over the destruction of the outer patrol. They intend to use it as evidence of your people's aggression." Ward's jaw tightened. "Then we don't have time to prepare speeches. We go in now with this." He tapped the drive in his pocket. Phelan keyed the lift for the upper decks. "Once we step into that chamber, you'll have only moments to speak before the faction moves to shut you down. Choose your words like weapons." The lift doors opened to reveal the same grand corridor Ward had walked before, though now the atmosphere had shifted. Guards stood at every junction, their armor gleaming, their weapons unslung. The great doors to the council chamber were already open, spilling golden light across the polished deck. Viral Sa was there, waiting just inside. His gaze swept over Ward and Phelan, lingering on the rifle in Ward's hand. "I take it the archive visit was successful." Ward held up the drive. enough to put Carestal in front of a tribunal. Viral Saw's expression darkened. Then you had better live long enough to present it. Together, they entered the chamber. The tiers were full, every seat occupied. Carestal stood near the dais, a towering figure in blood-red armor, his voice carrying over the assembly. And so we see that the humans have struck first, destroying our patrol in cold blood. This is not a people who seek peace. This is a people who seek conquest. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the hall. Ward felt the weight of every eye turning toward him as Viral Saw announced his presence. The general's gaze locked onto him, cold and assessing. The Terran captain. Come to offer excuses? Ward stepped forward, his voice steady. No, I've come to show you the truth. He reached for the drive, and the chamber's lights cut out, plunging everything into darkness. A sharp report echoed, a weapon discharge, or something worse, and the sound of armored boots striking the floor filled the void. Ward dropped into a crouch, the rifle tight against his shoulder, senses straining. Somewhere in the black, voices shouted in alien tongues. The air smelled faintly of ozone, the taste of danger sharp on his tongue. A hand closed on his arm, Phelan's voice urgent in the dark. They're moving against you now. We have to reach the center before they control the narrative. Ward rose, ready to push forward through the chaos. The truth was in his hands, but so were the enemies who would kill to bury it. Ward forced himself to keep moving through the pitch-dark chamber, the chaos pressing in from every side. Shouts in alien dialects ricocheted off the high walls, and a faint whir of servo motors from armored suits marked advancing hostiles. Phelan's grip on his arm tightened, steering him toward the faint outline of the dais in the center. The emergency lighting snapped on in staggered bursts, each flare of pale illumination revealing fragments of the chaos. Council members ducking behind their seating tiers, security forces raising weapons, and Carestal standing unmoved at the center of it all. His crimson armor gleamed in the cold light, his posture a silent claim of authority. You see, Carestal's voice boomed above the din. Even now, the human disrupts our council with violence. This is their true nature. Ward's instinct screamed at him to raise the rifle, but he held back. The weapon was a tool here, but the real battle was in the perception of every watching eye. He caught Viral Saw's gaze, steady, calculating, and understood the silent plea there. Proof, not blood. Phelan stepped forward, placing himself between Ward and the nearest cluster of armed soldiers. The human carries evidence, he announced, his voice sharp enough to cut through the noise. Proof that the attack on Haven 3 was orchestrated by Carestal himself. The words struck the chamber like a shockwave. Conversations faltered, the tide of aggression momentarily stilled. Carestal's visor shifted toward Phelan, and Ward caught the faint hiss of a breath drawn through clenched teeth. A fabrication, the general spat. Nothing more than human trickery, aided by traitors in our midst. Ward stepped to the dais, his boots echoing against the polished floor. If it's a fabrication, he said evenly, you won't mind if every council member here examines it. Carestal's hand drifted toward the hilt of a ceremonial blade at his hip. You presume much, Terran. I presume survival, Ward shot back. Mine. Yours. Everyone's. Because if this war continues based on your lies, there won't be anything left worth ruling. Viral Saw moved then, his towering frame interposing itself between Ward and Carestal. Enough, he commanded, voice like stone breaking under strain. Captain Ward, present the data. Ward drew the encrypted drive from his pocket, its casing gleaming under the cold light. He crossed to the central console and slid it into the receptacle. The chamber's projection arrays hummed to life, casting a three-dimensional hologram above the dais. Lines of text in alien script cascaded down, translating in real time into multiple languages across the viewing panels. The first image froze the chamber into silence, the sealed order bearing Carestal's unique command cipher, directing an orbital strike on Haven 3. Date stamps, troop movement logs, and tactical overlays followed, layer upon layer of evidence, impossible to refute without claiming the entire archive system was corrupted. Murmurs rose among the council members, their tones shifting from disbelief to outrage. A representative from the outer colonies leaned forward in his seat. "General Carestal, these orders bear your seal. How do you explain them?" Carestal's gauntlet fist clenched. "I explain them as forged by human hands. Their species has always been cunning in deception." Ward's temper flared, but he forced his voice to stay controlled. "If I had the ability to crack your highest security layers, General, I wouldn't be standing here in front of you with nothing but a rifle and a few allies. I'd be at home, rebuilding the planet you burned." The silence that followed was thick, every eye darting between Ward, Carestal, and the hovering evidence. Thalen took a step forward. "I accessed the archive myself," he said, his voice carrying the weight of a sworn statement. "The data came directly from the secured annex, through my credentials. If the orders are forged, then your entire command structure is compromised." Viral Sa's gaze swept the chamber. "And if that is true, then Carestal's actions endanger every world under our protection." Carestal moved suddenly, his blade flashing free of its scabbard. The nearest guards hesitated, too slow to react before the general lunged toward Ward. Ward brought the rifle up, but Viral Sa intercepted the strike, catching the blade on the reinforced vambrace of his armor. The sound of metal on metal rang out like a gunshot. "You shame yourself," Viral Sa growled, twisting the weapon from Carestal's grasp with practiced ease. The blade clattered to the floor, spinning to a stop at Ward's feet. Before the general could recover, security forces from multiple factions moved in, their armor bearing the sigils of neutral sectors. They surrounded Carestal, weapons trained, voices barking orders to stand down. For a heartbeat, it seemed the general might fight, but the weight of aimed rifles broke through his defiance. Slowly, he raised his hands. Viral Sa turned to Ward. "The council will deliberate on the charges. You've done what you came here to do." Ward shook his head. "Not yet. You have my proof, but my people still need a guarantee this war ends." The council's presiding moderator, a tall, silver-scaled being whose voice carried the resonance of authority, rose from their seat. "Then hear this, Captain Ward of Earth. Effective immediately, all hostilities against human settlements are suspended. Carestal is to be detained pending trial, and any orders issued under his authority are rescinded. This council will open formal negotiations with your leaders to establish a lasting accord." Relief washed through Ward, but it was tempered by the memory of burning skies over Haven 3. "That's a start," he said quietly. As Carestal was led away, his visor turned toward Ward one last time. The look that passed between them was not one of defeat, but of promise, an unspoken vow that this battle was over, but the war in the shadows would continue. Thalen approached, his expression unreadable. "You realize you will not stop, even in confinement." Ward met his gaze. "Then we'll be ready when he tries again." Viral Sa inclined his head, a rare sign of respect. "You have allies here now, Captain. Use them well." The chamber began to empty, delegates filing out in hushed clusters, their conversations sharp with speculation and shifting alliances. Ward lingered, his eyes drawn to the holographic projection still hovering above the dais. A frozen snapshot of the orders that had nearly dragged two civilizations in an endless war. He powered it down with a single command. The image vanished, leaving only the faint hum of the projectors. The absence felt like the first true silence since he'd set foot aboard this ship. In that silence, Ward realized something. This had never been just about Haven 3. It had been a test. A probe into humanity's will stand against powers far older and more ruthless than themselves. And by surviving it, by turning the attack back onto its architect, he'd shown them exactly what kind of enemy humanity could be. As he followed Viral Sa and Thalen out into the corridor, the weight on his shoulders felt different, not lighter, but steadier. He had no illusions about the road ahead. The galaxy was vast, its dangers infinite. But now, somewhere within its tangled politics and hidden wars, humanity had a voice that could not be ignored. The lift descended toward the docking bays. the hum of its engines a steady counterpoint to the thoughts circling in Ward's mind. Outside, the void stretched in every direction, indifferent to the struggles of those who moved within it. But for the first time since the attack, he allowed himself to think of home, not as a memory of loss, but as a place to be returned to. When the lift doors opened, he stepped out into the cavernous bay where his shuttle waited. The guards at the ramp saluted, not out of protocol but acknowledgement. He returned the gesture without breaking stride. Inside the shuttle, the systems came online in a wash of familiar sounds. Phelan stood just outside the hatch, offering a final nod. "Until next time, Captain." Ward allowed himself a small smile. "Let's hope there isn't one." The hatch sealed, the bay doors yawned open, and the shuttle eased into the black. Stars wheeled slowly beyond the canopy, and with them, the promise of a fragile, hard-won peace. For now, it was enough.